Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your chosen sources and really pull out the most fascinating and important bits. Today, we're diving headfirst into these excerpts from a PDF, Murder Row Frogerac 000007Y3.pdf.
Right, and these early chapters, they really throw us into this, well, seemingly peaceful village, King's Abbot. But as you start reading, you realize that tranquility is paper thin.
Definitely. The story kicks off with what looks like a suicide, a Mrs. Ferrars, but then, bang, it's immediately followed by the actual murder of Roger Ackroyd. Quite a shock for the village.
The huge shock.
Exactly. So our mission, really, for this deep dive is to try and untangle this initial web. You know, the relationships, the suspicions, all the secrets that these opening chapters just throw at us.
Yeah, we want to get a feel for the landscape of the mystery.
Mm-hmm. And even this early, like you said, there are some genuine puzzles, things that don't quite add up, conflicting ideas popping up already.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. King's Abbot itself, the village. It almost feels like another character, doesn't it?
It really does. The text paints this picture, a village where connection, or maybe more accurately, gossip, is just, it's the lifeblood. It says it's their main pastime.
Yeah, explicitly.
And the layout matters too. You've got King's Paddock, where Mrs. Ferrars lived, and then Fernley Park, Ackroyd's place.
Yeah.
These are the focal points.
And this sort of tight-knit community where everyone supposedly knows everyone else's business. Well, it's the perfect breeding ground for secrets, isn't it?
Ironically, yes.
Yes.
Secrets and misunderstandings. We're seeing that straight away.
So, within this gossipy little world, we meet our cast, starting with the narrator, Dr. Shepard. He seems fairly level-headed, at first glance anyway.
Yeah, he presents that way. But his sister Caroline, well, she's something else.
Oh, Caroline Shepard. She definitely stirs the pot early on.
She really does. The text makes it clear she's immediately convinced Mrs. Ferrars' death wasn't suicide. She thinks it was remorse after poisoning her own husband, Ashley Ferrars.
Which is a huge accusation.
Huge. And what's fascinating is Dr. Shepard, he kind of dismisses it publicly. Oh, Caroline, But the narration hints he secretly thinks there might be something to it.
Okay. So right from the start, we're getting this information through a potentially biased lens.
Exactly. The narrator might not be telling us everything or might be seeing things his own way. His internal thoughts sometimes clash with what he says out loud. It's clever.
That unreliable narrator feel, yeah. Then there's Roger Ackroyd himself. He's painted as this classic country squire, generous, pillar of the community sort of thing.
The public image.
But there's that little hint, isn't there? Rumors that personally, he could be quite mean. And we find out about his past marriage to a widow, Mrs. Peyton, and her son, Ralph.
Yeah, that contrast is deliberate. The public generosity versus the private meanness whispers, and his relationship with Mrs. Ferrars after her husband died. That's immediately flagged as important.
The whole village expected them to marry, apparently.
Which straight away sets up potential conflicts, hidden agendas, maybe jealousy.
And speaking of conflicts, let's talk about Ralph Peyton, Ackroyd's stepson. Good-looking, charming, but also self-indulgent, extravagant. Sounds like maybe he was counting on inheriting, especially if Ackroyd married Mrs. Ferrars.
That's the impression. Ralph fits that type, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Attractive, but maybe irresponsible. Definitely has money troubles. The text even says he has no veneration for anything on earth. That's quite a statement.
Wow, okay, so maybe capable of doing anything for self-interest.
It suggests that possibility.
Yeah.
And he's engaged to Flora Ackroyd, Roger's niece. Another complication in the family web.
And we get glimpses of others, too. Miss Russell, the housekeeper. She asks Dr. Shepard a rather odd question, doesn't she, about cures for drug habits.
Yes, very strange. Comes out of nowhere. Makes you wonder immediately who she's asking for. Herself. Someone else.
Then Parker, the butler, always there, always observing.
The classic butler role. He sees everything, hears everything, a natural suspect or at least a source of information.
And Jeffrey Raymond, Ackroyd's secretary, and Major Blunt, who seems like just another resident at first. Quite a full house introduced quickly.
It is. And each one gets these little details attached. Miss Russell and the drug cure question, for instance. Parker's omnipresence. It all hints at secrets.
Right, so those early suspicions. Caroline really gets the ball rolling with her theory about Mrs. Ferrars.
Yeah, she is absolutely convinced. Poisoned the husband, died of guilt. She even thinks Mrs. Ferrars left a confession letter.
Which introduces this idea of past crimes, secrets bubbling up. But is Caroline just gossiping, or does she know something?
That's the question, isn't it? The text doesn't really give us her sources. It could just be her overactive imagination fueled by village chatter.
And then Dr. Shepard meets his new neighbor. Turns out to be Poirot, though we don't know it yet.
That first conversation is brilliant, all about routine versus interesting work. But then the neighbor makes that comment about Dr. Shepard's own greedy speculation.
Yeah. Mentions porcupine oil fields, an Australian gold mine.
It immediately establishes this neighbor as perceptive. Someone who sees motivations, like maybe financial pressure, which could be important.
And he doesn't stop there. He mentions Ralph Payton, too. Says there's something about him he doesn't quite get. Hints at something hidden.
Again, pointing the finger subtly at Ralph, suggesting complexity, maybe hidden motives, something not quite right.
Then later, Shepard talks to Ackroyd about Ralph's engagement to Flora. And Ackroyd's reaction is weird.
How so?
He insists Ralph is in London, but Caroline is adamant she just saw Ralph at the local inn, the Three Boars, with a girl.
A direct contradiction. So Ackroyd's lying or mistaken. Either way, it flags Ralph as maybe dishonest, definitely hiding something, and it makes you doubt Ackroyd too.
Exactly. And what about Miss Russell again? Asking about rare poisons, but specifically saying she's not interested in veronal.
That is so specific. Veronal being common for suicide, right? So she's interested in poisons, but not that one. It's like a big flashing sign saying, pay attention to me. Maybe you're a red herring, maybe not.
It definitely makes you look sideways at her. All this tension is building.
Right.
And then comes the dinner at Fernley Park. Even before the murder, it feels off.
Yeah, the atmosphere seems charged. Dr. Shepard gets this unexpected invite. Flora, the niece, is surprised he's there.
Suggests it wasn't a normal family dinner plan.
Perhaps. Disrupts the usual dynamic. And Mrs. Ackroyd, Roger's sister-in-law, she seems quite unpleasant. Makes some sharp remarks about Flora's engagement. Adds to the general feeling of discord.
And Ackroyd himself is clearly agitated after dinner.
Extremely. He pulls Dr. Shepard aside, insists on talking privately. Says he's in hell, that this business of Ralph's is the last straw.
Oh.
He sounds like a man at breaking point.
Under immense pressure. And his need to talk to Shepard, it underlines how serious this is.
And what he reveals.
Wow. He starts by asking Shepard about Ashley Farrar's death, Mrs. Farrar's first husband.
Yeah.
Asking if poisoning was ever suspected.
Right. After everyone just accepted it, suddenly he's questioning it, linking back to Caroline's theory. Maybe he's starting to put pieces together himself.
And then the bombshell. Ackroyd tells Shepard that Mrs. Farrar's confessed to him. She did poison her husband, and she was being blackmailed.
Boom. That changes everything. Confirms Caroline's suspicion about the poisoning, introduces blackmail as a motive, connects her death to someone else.
And the cliffhanger. Ackroyd says Mrs. Farrar's was going to name the blackmailer in a letter that he received just before dinner that night.
A letter naming the blackmailer. Incredible.
But he won't tell Shepard the name. Says he'll read it after Shepard leaves. The tension is just palpable.
You just know something awful is about to happen. He's basically sitting there with a loaded gun, metaphorically speaking.
Shepard leaves around 8:50 p.m. Ackroyd made it clear he didn't want to be disturbed. Then, around 10:05 p.m., Shepard gets a phone call.
The mysterious phone call.
Supposedly from Parker, the butler, saying Ackroyd's been murdered. But later, Parker denies making that call.
Okay, so who did make the call? And why? To get Shepard back there or away from somewhere else? That's a huge inconsistency right away.
They find Ackroyd's body in his study, stabbed.
With that Tunisian dagger, which we find out later Major Blunt gave him, a curio.
Another connection. And the study door is locked from the inside. Classic locked rooms setup.
Suggests the killer maybe escaped through the window or was still inside. Or maybe it wasn't locked the whole time. Lots of possibilities. The dagger being Blunt's immediately puts him in the frame, at least partially.
Geoffrey Raymond, the secretary, and Major Blunt arrive. Raymond immediately assumes robbery.
Interesting first reaction. Maybe reveals something about his mindset.
Then Inspector Raglan arrives. Finds footprints outside the study window, rubber-studded ones. Suggests an intruder.
Right, the physical evidence. Raglan's focusing on that, the conventional approach.
But then Raymond says something crucial. He says he heard Ackroyd talking to someone in the study around 9:30 p.m. He assumed it was Shepard.
But Shepard was gone by then.
Exactly. So Ackroyd was alive after Shepard left, and he had another visitor.
A visitor around 9:30 p.m.? That's vital.
And Flora says she saw him even later, around 9:45 p.m., to say goodnight. He asked not to be disturbed then, too. The timeline gets really crowded and confusing.
So visitor at 9:30, Flora at 9:45. Who else was around?
Dr. Shepard then tells Raglan about Mrs. Farrar's confession, the blackmail, gives a potential motive, but the letter is gone.
Of course it is. The letter naming the blackmailer has vanished. The killer, or someone protecting the killer, or the blackmailer, must have taken it.
It's getting messy. And then Flora requests a famous detective, enter Poirot.
Poirot arrives, and his first observation. Captain Peyton, Ralph is missing. Under suspicious circumstances, he cuts right to the chase.
Sharp as ever, Poirot goes to Fernley, inspects the study, notices the details. Low fire, drawn curtains, light on, and a chair slightly out of place.
Ah, the chair.
He seems really interested in that moved chair. Why do you think that specific detail grabs him?
It's pure Poirot, isn't it?
Yeah.
He believes tiny, out-of-place things are clues. The chair could mean someone else was there, maybe a struggle, maybe it was moved to hide something or reach something. It disrupts the room's expected state.
He also makes that observation early on. Everyone involved has something to hide. Bold statement.
Sets the theme, doesn't it? Deception everywhere.
He asks Parker about strangers visiting. Parker mentions a young man from a dictaphone company visited on Wednesday. Seems random.
Dictaphone. Interesting. Maybe away messages were left or recorded. Poirot logs these odd details.
He's also interested in the silver table where the dagger should have been. Then Raglan outlines his theory. Ralph did it. Climbed in the window, took the dagger, killed Ackroyd, left. Simple.
Too simple for Poirot.
Right. Poirot immediately asks, well, if Ralph did it, why would he then phone Dr. Shepard? It stumps Raglan. Good point.
Classic Poirot logic. Poking holes in the obvious theory by focusing on inconsistencies in behavior.
Raglan finds a bit of starched handkerchief near the summer house. Thinks it's a clue. Poirot seems unimpressed.
Poirot has his own ideas about what's important, doesn't he? Maybe the handkerchief is too obvious for him.
Then Poirot spots Major Blunt near the goldfish pond. Blunt gives a vague story about seeing a woman disappear into the bushes.
Vague is right. Sounds like he's hiding something. Or someone.
And Poirot immediately asks him about moving a chair in the study. He's not letting go of that chair.
See? It's clearly bothering him. He connects Blunt's slightly odd behavior by the pond with the possibility of him being involved with the chair incident.
Then Flora throws a spanner in Raglan's works. She insists the dagger was not on the silver table when she and Dr. Shepard looked at it earlier.
Directly contradicts Raglan's theory of Ralph grabbing it from there. Suggests maybe the scene was manipulated or Raglan's assumptions are wrong.
And then the goldfish pond again. Poirot finds something. A gold wedding ring. Inscription. From R, March 13th.
Wow, okay. A wedding ring. From R, Roger. Ralph, Raymond. Who?
What?
March 13th. A significant date. This points to a secret relationship, surely.
Poirot refuses to explain it naturally, just pockets it. More intrigue.
He loves doing that. Keeping his cards close to his chest.
Now, enter Ursula Bourne, the parlor maid. She's leaving Fernley. Apparently after a disagreement with Ackroyd about papers on his desk.
Convenient timing for her departure. Or inconvenient, depending on your perspective.
Mrs. Ackroyd mentions Miss Russell handles the staff. Then the inspector questions Ursula about missing money. She denies it forcefully.
Money missing, too. And she's leaving under a cloud. Poirot probably notes the timing of her dismissal very carefully. Could it be connected?
Seems likely he thinks so. He later asks Shepard for his impression of Ursula. Then they visit her previous employer, a Mrs. Folliott.
And how does that go?
Mrs. Folliott is clearly uncomfortable, evasive. Seems like she's hiding something about Ursula's past. More secrets.
Definitely suggests Ursula has a hidden history. Poirot must be very interested in her now.
Meanwhile, Caroline is trying her best to help Poirot.
Oh, I bet she is.
Giving him her own theories, probably embellished. She's adamant Ralph is innocent, thinks he was with that girl from the inn. That's his alibi. Urges Poirot to find the girl.
She's like the village detective agency, all on her own.
She even passes on Mrs. Ackroyd's suspicion of Miss Russell, just stirring the pot constantly. You can just picture her, can't you? Leaning in conspiratorially.
Absolutely. But, sometimes gossip contains kernels of truth. Poirot probably listens to everything, even Caroline's theories.
Poirot tells Shepard he needs to be detached. Not like a family doctor, but a detective. Expect lies.
Good advice. Essential for him.
He outlines his initial thoughts. Mrs. Farrar's suicide, Ackroyd's murder, time of death around 9:30, 9:45, Ralph maybe entering via the window, Ackroyd being nervous, The 9:30 visitor likely wanting money. He's building his framework.
Yeah, laying out the knowns and the key questions, focusing on that critical time period and the likely motive of money.
Mrs. Ackroyd then tries to manage what Shepard tells Poirot. She's worried about what Ursula, the parlor maid, might have overheard.
So Mrs. Ackroyd has secrets, too, worried about what the staff knows.
She admits her own money troubles, says she showed Roger some bills she didn't want him to see the day before the murder. Financial pressure seems to be everywhere in this story.
It really does. A recurring motive. Mrs. Farrar is blackmailed, Ralph's debts, Mrs. Ackroyd's bills.
Ursula herself asks Shepard about news of Ralph Payton, insists he should come back. And she asks specifically about the exact time of the murder. Very pointed questions.
She's definitely invested in Ralph's situation, isn't she? And that focus on the timing is suspicious.
And then Caroline's attempt to find out the color of Ralph's boots for Poirot. It's almost comical.
Bless her cotton socks. Amateur sleuthing at its finest. Shows the difference between gossip and Poirot's method, though.
Geoffrey Raymond visits Poirot, mentions he'd been at the Larches, Poirot's house name. Then Ralph Payton himself shows up.
Really? He comes to Poirot.
Yeah. Explains why he disappeared, panicked, basically, admits his money troubles, denies the murder flat out, and gives an alibi.
An alibi? What is it?
Says he was with Major Blunt in the billiard room from about 9:45 p.m. onwards.
9:45 p.m. That would clear him, if true. Just after Flora saw Ackroyd. Does Poirot believe him?
Hard to say. Ralph seems guilty about something, especially after Poirot talks about concealment. Maybe not the murder, but something else.
Interesting. And Poirot's reaction to Blunt's name being involved.
He has this odd tone when he mentions Blunt. Suggests Blunt is hiding something too, but then dismisses it, saying Englishmen only hide their love. Cryptic.
Very cryptic. Is he hinting Blunt has feelings for someone? Maybe Flora?
Could be. Shepard then questions if the blackmailer has to be the murderer. Poirot agrees it's not certain. Maybe Parker just took the letter.
Opens it up again. It could be two separate people, two separate motives colliding.
Then Poirot wants to reconstruct the crime in the study. Parker makes that dry comment about it being a foreign custom.
Parker sees more than he lets on, doesn't he? That reconstruction could be revealing.
Then we get that scene at Shepard's house, the mahjong evening, gossip, guests. Seems normal.
Just a slice of village social life.
Until Shepard gets this amazing mahjong hand, Tin Ho the perfect winning, and maybe feeling pleased with himself, or maybe pushed by Caroline.
Oh.
He blurts out about the gold wedding ring Poirot found, causes a huge stir, shows how quickly news, or even hints, travel.
Yeah, not very discreet of him. Could mess things up for Poirot, letting that slip.
Poirot then decides to tackle Parker directly.
The confrontation.
Accuses him of blackmail. Parker denies it at first, indignant, but then admits, yeah, he was listening in, hoping to maybe profit from the situation somehow, but he swears he didn't harm Ackroyd.
And Poirot's take.
He seems to believe Parker didn't do the actual murder, says Parker doesn't have the nerve.
So Parker's an opportunist, a petty blackmailer maybe, but not the killer in Poirot's eyes. Interesting assessment of character.
Next, Poirot interviews Mr. Hammond, Mrs. Farrar's lawyer.
Getting the official side of her affairs.
Hammond confirms he handled everything for her. Poirot gets Shepard to repeat his last conversation with Ackroyd for Hammond. Afterwards, Poirot says Parker is a scoundrel on a mean scale, but not the mastermind. Leaving who? Raymond and Blunt as possibilities for having something deeper to hide?
The focus narrows again. Parker's sidelined as the main villain. Raymond or Blunt might be involved more seriously.
Then Caroline reports Poirot was suddenly ill, probably exaggerating, but he's asking for info about anything dropped on the study floor that night.
Still focused on the physical scene.
Especially near that moved chair. He asks if anything was near it. He's obsessed. And then, success. He finds something, a small object that rolled under the chair. We don't know what it is yet.
But he finds something near the chair. That feels like a breakthrough. His focus on that detail paid off. Classic Poirot. What could it be?
We don't know yet. Just as that happens, the police bring in Charles Kent, the stranger Shepard saw at the gate.
Oh, the rough-looking fellow.
Exactly. He denies everything, won't say who he was meeting. Shepard recognizes his voice distinctly. Kent says he read about the murder in the papers, gives an alibi, says he was at the Dog and Whistle pub.
An alibi. Does it check out?
The police initially think he might be the blackmailer. Raglan seems ready to let him go, maybe just a petty crook, but notes the fingerprint potential. Poirot, however.
Yes.
Poirot insists Kent should not be released yet. He clearly thinks Kent is still important.
Even with an alibi, Poirot must see a connection the police are missing.
Then Poirot drops another bomb, suggests Flora wasn't telling the whole truth about being in the study. Maybe she was just on the stairs.
Challenging her account now.
And Flora cracks, confesses she did take money from her uncle's room that night, needed it urgently, meant to replace it.
Oh, so she was hiding something. Not the murder, but theft.
And Major Blunt immediately jumps in, says he saw her take it, he was protecting her, and then admits to Poirot he's in love with Flora.
Wow. Oh, okay, so Blunt wasn't hiding his own crime, he was hiding Flora's. And he loves her. That explains his earlier vagueness, maybe even moving the chair.
Possibly. Poirot advises Blunt to tell Flora how he feels. Says he thinks Flora didn't love Ralph anyway, the engagement was just convenient. Blunt is hugely grateful. A whole secret romance angle opens up.
That changes the dynamics considerably, explains Blunt's loyalty.
Meanwhile, Raglan's still stuck on Kent's alibi. Poirot sets up a meeting with Miss Russell at Shepherd's surgery. He reveals the newspaper story about Ralph's arrest was a fake, a ploy to see who'd react.
Clever trick. Did Miss Russell react?
She turns up, Poirot confronts her. Says he knows about her interest in drug cures and about a goose quill found in the summer house.
A goose quill. Where did that come from?
Seems significant. And Miss Russell confesses Charles Kent is her son.
Her son. Wow, that's the secret.
Yes, he came to meet her secretly in the summer house that night. She was terrified of her past being revealed. And crucially, she confirms she left him at 10 minutes past 9, 9:10 p.m.
9-never in p.m., which confirms Ken's alibi wasn't needed for the likely time of death, around 9.38 or 9.45.
Yeah.
So he's probably clear of the murder itself. But what a secret for Miss Russell to carry.
Exactly. So just to recap where we are, it's a lot. Mrs. Farrar's confession, the blackmail, Ackroyd murdered, seemingly everyone hiding something. We've got the wedding ring mystery, Ralph's shaky situation, Flora's theft, Blunt's secret love and protection, Miss Russell's secret son.
It's a tangled web. And that timeline around 9:30 p.m. when Raymond heard Ackroyd talking, that still feels absolutely critical, doesn't it? Who was he talking to?
That's the million-dollar question right now.
Absolutely. We've got a growing list of people with secrets, motives, connections. Blunt, Raymond, Flora, Ralph, Mrs. Ackroyd, Miss Russell, even Parker in his own way. And that timeline around the murder itself is key, but the accounts are conflicting or incomplete. It shows how hard it is to find the truth when everyone's hiding things.
So for you, the listener, thinking about all this, all these secrets, all these potential motives, who's jumping out at you right now? Who seems most likely connected to Ackroyd's death? And is there one piece of information, maybe the ring, the chair, the missing letter, Kent's connection, that feels like the key?
Loads to think about.
Yeah.
And in our next deep dive, we'll push further into Poirot's investigation. We'll look closer at the clues he's found that object under the chair, the ring, and see how he starts to pull these threads together, hopefully getting closer to the whole truth. So keep digging into those sources. Keep thinking about these complex relationships and secrets we've uncovered today.